Well, welcome back to our viewers. This again is Gene Black and Edward Muhammad, and this is Everyday Enlightenment. Thank you all for joining and watching our cast today. We certainly appreciate it. Today, Edward and I were talking about a few different things over the past week, and given everything that's happening out here in our country right now, there's just so much anxiety, so much just uncertainty, and a lot of chaos, or perceived chaos anyway, and political turmoil, all types of things, right? So one of the things that Edward and I were talking about was, how do we create and sustain joy and happiness in the midst of a storm like we're seeing right now? How do you really sustain that? How do you create and then sustain that joy over time? And it's something that I think that we should pay attention to, because having this joy and happiness within us is a part of us and our journey along our life's experience. And we want to have the best life experience that we can have, right? So today we want to talk about two things that are going to help us to not only create, but also sustain the joy and happiness that we desire. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into that, Edward, how you doing, man? What's going on?
I'm great. I feel great. How about you?
Man, I feel really good too.
And I feel grateful.
Yes, grateful.
You know what I'm saying? This is that topic and the title of this discussion. Of course, you and I know what we're going to talk about, and just leading right into it. This week for me, as similar to most weeks, has put me thinking a lot about the things that I'm thankful for and the things that I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
For many reasons, for me personally, but I find myself using gratitude and appreciation as one of my tools to sustain happiness and joy in my life.
Yeah.
It's definitely I feel like a magic formula, if you will.
Yeah.
One of the secrets to life and living a fulfilled life,
right,
is gratitude and a consistent practice of appreciation.
Yes.
So
and that's what it is, man. I mean, especially right now with so many things that are happening right now. I think it's really important to fall back on what we are grateful for. If nothing else, I mean, I think that the whole COVID-19 pandemic has, if you're paying attention anyway, has forced a lot of us to reevaluate, reassess, really reprioritize those things that are important to us, and becoming more cognizant of those things that we are grateful for in our lives, that we are appreciative of in our lives. Stuff that we used to take for granted, just simple stuff like going to the movies or going out to dinner or whatever, we take that stuff for granted, or we did take that stuff for granted. Whereas now, man, I would be so grateful just to be able to go to the movies and sit down and just watch a good movie, have some popcorn.
Man, what?
I would love to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But, we took that for granted for so long. So it is about finding those small things to be grateful for. And when we do, and I know you're going to talk a lot more about what that is going to make you feel like. But before we even get to that, I think that one of the main things to remember, and this is one of the main 2 points we want to talk about today, is really having a desire to be happy. Really taking some time. And if you think about that, a lot of times we go through our lives, and this is no judgment to anybody, but a lot of times we go through our lives and we are just, going with the flow of whatever's happening, with no real projected thought on what it is that we want. So really, I think it begins with having a desire to be happy throughout my day, throughout your day, simply having that desire, that expectation of happiness, and then simply having an affinity towards happiness and joy. That is where it all begins. So I think that number one, we should all take some time in our day to stop, think about, be very proactive with what it is that we desire to feel throughout our day. So if I'm setting an intention and I have an expectation of happiness and joy throughout my day, then it puts my spirit in line and focused with what I desire for that day to be. without that, then we go along with the flow of whatever that day is. And then we are reacting to whatever's happening throughout our day, as opposed to being proactive with how we want our day to be. So I think that first of all, it's important to set that desire, that intention of happiness throughout my day. Now, as we've talked about before, it doesn't mean that because I have an intention and an expectation for happiness throughout my day that, hey, everything is going to be roses, nothing is going to go wrong. It doesn't mean that at all. What it means is we create a state of awareness when we begin our day. So we say, hey, I have an intention of happiness and joy throughout my day today. And when I set that intention throughout my day, as things are popping up that would look to disrupt that intention, I still have the awareness of what I planned for my day to be. So I can always fall back on, yeah, I decided to be happy today. I want to be happy today. I have an affinity for joy. I'm searching for it. I'm looking for it. I expect it. And just in that very, with us saying that in the first place, it puts us into a different mind state of, yeah, I automatically feel like, man, I'm going to have a great day today. I'm going to be very joyous today. I'm going to be very happy today. It puts you in a whole different mindset, even simply by saying those words and thinking those thoughts, and then allowing ourselves to feel what that is going to feel like throughout the day. So right there, you have set a deliberate path, a deliberate intention. And when other things come up to try to disrupt that, you can always fall back on what you set in the first place, that foundational space. I have joy today. I have an expectation of happiness throughout my day. That's how we want to get started with that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And then just to tag along with that, I think it's important that you be honest with yourself. I don't think very few people would admit to being, unhappy unless they are going through some kind of traumatic experience. In my experience and along my journey, most of the people I talk to feel like they're happy.
Yeah.
They even though everything manifesting in their lives would indicate that they're probably not as happy as they think they are. At their core. They because we have gotten so into a routine and the monotony of everyday tasks, and we're content living in a fool's paradise, if you will, of thinking that this what we experience every day is happiness and joy, when you have glimpses of what true happiness and joy is, you soon find out, oh wow, I actually could be feeling better than I feel. So I think that the awareness, first of all, the self-awareness and the self-examination of, am I happy? Am I truly living a joyful life? Not 100% of the time, but most of the time.
Right.
And to answer that question honestly for yourself, then if the answer is yes, then of course, because we don't make the presumption that people aren't happy. We're trying to deliver a message that we feel like resonates to living a more fulfilled and a more sustained, joyful experience.
Right.
And so once if you can identify some things in your life that could be different, that would bring you more joy and peace and happiness, then at that point, you already have a desire. Yes. You already now say, okay, there's something, I have a life right now that I'm living, and I desire a life over here that I don't have. And that over here doesn't mean outside of yourself. I'm just using that word over here, meaning the contrast between where you stand now and where you want to be.
Right.
And so then, going to your point, at that point, the exercises can start to begin.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you're right. I like what you said a second ago. Basically, just to kind of paraphrase, it's like a lot of us go through life and everything. And again, it's not saying that we are miserable people, but we end up being happy by default. So by no action of our own, by no intention or no expectation or nothing proactively that we have done, we end up being happy by default. as opposed to being deliberate in our happiness and our joy. And to
Exactly.
your point, exactly. And to your point, when we have that intention, that expectation, that affinity, and when we say affinity, understand having an affinity towards happiness and joy really is all about. Think about that word affinity. Is really all about you are so engulfed and have such a desire to be one with happiness and joy that it becomes your default. That becomes your default. And we all know people who are naturally like that, right? People that are just, every time you see them, they're just bubbly and happy no matter what, because they have an affinity towards being happiness. They have an affinity towards joy, and it just comes natural to them. Other of us, Gene, I got to work on that. So, I mean, I have to set that intention. And to your point, when we set that intention and we have that expectation of joy and happiness and bliss, then that changes things. Because when we have that intention and that expectation, what we thought was happiness is a far cry from it. We begin to see a whole different plane of what happiness and joy are all about.
Right.
And that's what happens when we take that first step. Step number one is simply having an intention, an expectation, an affinity, a desire towards happiness and joy in our daily lives, no matter what's happening around us, no matter what's happening in the world, no matter what's happening in the country. And it doesn't mean that we ignore those things that are happening in the country. It doesn't mean that we ignore those things that we classify as bad or tumultuous in our lives. It simply means that, what do you desire more? Do you desire to be unhappy more than you desire to be happy? Or do you desire to be happy more than you desire to be unhappy? And making that active choice, then we are directing our lives, right? We are giving a roadmap to where we are going by doing that,
Right.
as opposed to just being a passive passenger along the road of life. Now we're in the driver's seat directing where we want to go in terms of happiness. Absolutely, right?
Right. Right. I think we it could be that we're having a conversation about happiness. But I mean, because all of these things ironically tie together, right?
Yes.
Gratitude, appreciation, joy, peace, happiness, love. One big
Full circle.
continuum circle, right? So, to your point, I wanted to say that, we have to be mindful that our happiness or joy, remind yourself that it's not outside of yourself. I think that in the
Yeah.
climate that we live in right now, again, the trap is that we've all fallen into at some point in life is looking outside of yourself
Yes.
for some fulfillment to feel better within.
Right.
And that's very easy to do when when we live in a very physical world. We live in a tangible society where everything, like we've talked about before, is based on our senses. It's almost next to impossible unless you have some knowledge of what we're talking about to come out of that. When
Right.
you look at the economical climate, when you look at the ecological climate, the
Yeah.
social climate, the political climate, any of these arenas, it doesn't take a lot to look in that area and blame someone or something else for how you feel.
Yes.
And I
Absolutely
think
right.
that the awareness of that, the awareness that your peace and your happiness comes from nobody else or no thing except you.
Right.
And this was along my journey, this was a huge thing to wrap my mind around, because again, I had lived a life condition for so long,
Yeah.
and that my blame game was pretty strong. I always looked at other people or some
Yeah.
other thing and easily found fault and
Right.
blame. But You know, the answer is within us. To have the gratitude and appreciation key and the joy key lies within.
Man, let me tell you something. That point right there is so incredibly valuable because, and that's also wisdom. I mean, how many people, how many of us truly go through life looking for happiness in other people, in things, in circumstances and situations? We look for happy, like you said, a lot of us, and this is no judgment again, a lot of us are looking for happiness outside of ourselves, not realizing and not remembering the fact that that happiness comes from within. There's only one thing that we control in this entire life, and we've said it before, and that is how you choose to feel. How you choose to feel is the only thing that you can control. So I think it's a very, very important point to that you just mentioned, which is happiness does not come from without. Happiness comes from within. So meaning happiness doesn't come from anything that's outside of you. You know, you can have the buy the finest new car, you can buy the biggest new house, you can have the best spouse or mate that you can ever think of, but at the end of the day, none of those things are going to relegate your happiness. Those are nice things to have, sure, but it doesn't necessarily equate to happiness. And that's why it's so important to have an intention of creating joy, an intention and a deliberate intention, that is, of creating joy and happiness and an expectation of it within your life. And then I think the second part of that, which is the second thing we want to talk about today, is there's various things that we can do. As Edward, as you already said, there's one gigantic continuum of love and gratitude and all those things that work together. And I totally see when we are off base through life, as we all, succumb to, and we become out of alignment, and we become anxious, or we become fearful, or angry, or frustrated, any list of negative emotions we can have. And we want to literally get back to creating our joy, creating our happiness. Gratitude and appreciation is a huge step in that direction on how we get there. You know, if you really sit down and think about, in the midst of everything that's happening right now, all these swirling winds of tumultuous things that are happening in our society, with the pandemic and everything else, having gratitude as a first step really is a foundational grounding step to creating that happiness and to creating that joy that we desire, right?
I agree wholeheartedly. And, just to talk a little bit about that, there's reasons for that, what you just stated as being a fact. There's a reason that gratitude and appreciation is so powerful. And in my opinion, the most under utilized and unrealized power that we have as human beings on this earth is the power of appreciation.
Right.
And the reason, one of the reasons that gratitude and appreciation is so powerful is because, going back to understanding how vibration works. And
Yes.
Appreciation, in my opinion, is the highest level of one of the highest vibrations that you can feel.
Right.
Because it offers no resistance.
Right.
When you are in a state of gratitude or appreciation about something, it offers no resistance.
Yeah.
Particularly if you can keep your appreciation about something general. The more specific in my journey, that what I've learned, the more specific I get about appreciating something, then comes a little resistance, more so than a general idea of being grateful for something broad, with a broad stroke. But I think it's important for the listeners to understand the reason why appreciation is so powerful, how it works, why it works. In every scripture that I've ever read, from the Holy Quran to the Bible to any other books that I've studied, any other religions that I'm familiar with, that's probably one of the common threads and tenets of all religions, is thankfulness, gratitude, and appreciation.
Yep.
because it is that that produces a closest or the closest relationship with your creator, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely, man. And you're 100% dead on correct. I mean, when we talk about appreciation, and we oftentimes talk about there's two other forces, there's two forces in the universe, and that's allowance and resistance. And when we are in a resistant state of mind, or a spiritual resistance of something, then it restricts the flow of your desire. And when we consider appreciation, like you're saying, we consider how we are vibrating, because the universe, as we've already talked about in the past, is the universe is responding to how we feel. Everything is energy in this entire universe. Is all 100% energy, including us and everything else that operates within it. And the universe is responding to the frequencies or the vibrations that we are emitting 100% of the time. And so, to your point, when we are in a state of appreciation and gratitude, we are so much so at a high point of allowance, because again, we are completely open to that appreciation. If we are sincere with that appreciation, we are completely open as a being, as a spiritual being. You're completely open to receiving those things that you desire, because you are in that state of appreciation, right? I know in the Holy Bible, it talks a lot of times about being a good steward of what you have been blessed with. And when you are a good steward of what you have been blessed with, then God, our creator, blesses you with that much more. So being a good steward is, okay, I have this particular thing or the circumstance or whatever it is, and being a good steward of it means I'm going to take good care of it. I'm going to
right,
be appreciative of it. I'm in a state of gratitude for what I've been blessed with. Therefore, I'm going to
right,
take good care of it, which puts me in a higher vibration state where God is willing to bless me even more, because I'm in a state of allowance. I'm in a state of complete and total appreciation and gratitude. And then when we
right,
think about how we feel mentally, spiritually, and physically, when we are sincerely grateful for something that has happened, or grateful for our health, or whatever it is, whatever material position we have, when we are sincerely grateful for that, think about how you feel. You feel so much at peace. You feel so much with calm and tranquility and happiness and bliss and joy. Again, that same circle of things that tie into that same space of spiritual empowerment, which comes
right.
down to love and peace and joy, tranquility, gratitude, and appreciation. This is how things are manifested in our lives. When we are in that much more of a state of appreciation and gratitude, along comes happiness, along comes bliss, along comes the fulfillment of desire. We are creating that space because we are in that state of gratitude and appreciation. I think,
Yeah,
to your point, I don't think there's anything much stronger than that, other than unconditional love. I don't think there's a lot much things that are stronger than that.
absolutely, absolutely. And it's all based on attraction.
Yes.
So we talked the last time we spoke. The topic we were dealing with emotions, and tying into that appreciation. So you have something that you are experiencing. You have a thought about it. The thought triggers an emotion,
Yeah.
and then the emotion generates an experience, and that cycle continues over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Thus is why you keep getting the same thing that you've always gotten, whether it's something wanted or unwanted.
Right.
So appreciating something because of the frequency that it emits and the vibration that it carries with it, such a strong attraction vibration, and going, understanding how the law of attraction works, like attracts like. So the more that you appreciate, the more you get things to appreciate.
To appreciate.
And
Exactly.
so, right. And so the caveat or the other side of this discussion in terms of what we're talking about now is learning, and this is the enlightenment part of the discussion. One of the enlightenment parts of it is to understand how and why you would find positive aspects or appreciate something that you don't like, or
Right.
something that you are experiencing that challenges your ability to appreciate. It's very easy to appreciate things that we like. You know, you can look at your material things, you can look at your spouse, you can look at your children,
Mm-hmm.
if they are doing things for you that you would appreciate. But they also can lend toward my point, and as well as your spouse and anything else, that if someone's behavior or something is not producing in you something that you want, you're displeased with it,
Right.
or you have a health condition, you lost a job, your house is getting foreclosed on, you live in a country that's run by a president that you completely disagree with,
Yeah.
and his or her leadership is indirectly impacting you.
Mm-hmm.
The list goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
Why would it be important to find things to appreciate in the unappreciative?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, because to your point, you know, if you have a list of 10 things and there are 9 things on it that you don't appreciate, and you can find one thing on the list to appreciate, your focus on that one thing out of 10
Right.
will impact the other 9 things. It's not that the other 9 things are changing, it's that you're changing. Your
Right.
perception of the other 9 things that you don't like, you will have a different view on it. So here we have a political climate that would challenge any of us to find something to be thankful for.
Mm-hmm.
I have practiced an exercise, you know, where I can look at like I said earlier, the general cabinet of the president and not the individual.
Mm-hmm.
But my exercise is just looking at the general cabinet of where he sits and being appreciative for the power that it yields, being appreciative for the things that a person who sits in that seat can do.
Right.
So and so that for me, when I list the things, and this is only because if I feel some resistance in that area, then I know from my own personal experience how dangerous that can be.
Right.
So I don't want to be walking around with any disdain about anyone or anything, really. So when I feel it, to your point earlier, I have the desire, and now I want to use what I feel like, what I know has worked with me in previous situations to help change that situation.
Right.
Keeping in mind that situation isn't changing, it's me that's changing.
Right.
So
absolutely right, man. I love that. I love that. I love that because this again is providing evidence that happiness comes from within, doesn't come from without. So, or doesn't come from outside of yourself. So to your point, and we'll just fall back on that again with the presidency right now in America. You're right. It's not about, and this, I know this is going to go against the grain for a lot of people, in finding something that's to be grateful for right now, no matter what your political affiliation is, Republican or Democrat, independent, whatever you are, it's simply about finding that appreciation for the fact that we have this structure of office in our country. And when you compare that to other countries who are not quite as fortunate as us to have a democratic system, then you can find appreciation in the fact that we do have a democratic system in the first place, right? So, I mean, that's just one way to kind of move off of what you are completely, whatever, frustrated about or angry about, whatever, regarding politics. Look at the construct itself and how it's set up in America, or find something else that you like about it in the first place, right?
And for what reason?
And the reason being because you have made a decision to find your happiness and to create your happiness and to create your joy. That is your reason, right? I have decided to feel this particular way, and I know that I'm going to be able to use gratitude and appreciation in all things, in all circumstances, in all situations, to help ground me and understand that I can move forward in that happiness and that bliss. You know, there's a lot of people, man. I mean, a lot of people, I'm sure people who are watching or listening to us right now, who have either been furloughed or lost their job completely. You know, any number of things. Businesses are suffering, man. People are suffering economically and financially. You know, I think I heard that they're about to reduce the amount of unemployment. You know, the $600 bonus that they were giving for about to go away. The whole non-conviction, I'm sorry, not conviction, non-eviction of apartment residents, that's going away. So there's a lot of angst, a lot of anxiety about that, man. So a lot of things going on. I think it's imperative, and I want to speak to those people directly who fall into that boat. You know, it's imperative that we get focused again, not focused on what is happening around you or happening in your life right now per se, but focus on how it is that you want to feel. Because here's the thing, as we've already stated before, what you feel, what you are emitting, the way that you are vibrating, the universe is responding to that. So again, it's not saying, hey, I'm going to act like nothing is happening at all, and I'm going to act like this is just all, you know, rainbows and unicorns. It doesn't mean that. What we speak about is being spiritually empowered to help manifest what it is you truly desire in your life. So if you truly desire to be happy, then let gratefulness and appreciation support that desire. And as we already stated before, when you are a good steward of that, when you are appreciative, then God finds other ways to make you to put things in your path to be even more appreciative of those things too. So if you have lost your job, if you're on furlough or any number of things, or you're having financial troubles, you know, let's focus on the small things that you are appreciative of. Hopefully you have a family with you, you know, your children. You know, children are so innocent, man. I mean, it's our job to take care of them and protect them. I look at my children and I find gratitude, you know, like like you said, even when they're not doing something it's hard for me to be appreciative of, I still find gratitude and appreciation in them as the beings that they are, because I know who
Right.
they are, you know.
Right.
And just in the
Right.
midst of that, I mean, if you love your child, my God, in the midst of everything that's going on around you, if I can look in my child's face, immediately I find appreciation and gratitude, which
Right.
puts me in a completely different space of allowance, no matter what's
Yes.
happening around me, so I can receive those desires that I want to manifest in my life. You know,
Right.
to find
Right.
something to be grateful for, no matter what the situation is.
Well, and then the irony of it is that uh, appreciation of a problem creates an allowance of the solution.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
it
Like,
does.
you know, if you, because again, it's about resistance and allowance, and appreciation is the high, you know, one of the highest level of vibrations that you can feel resistance free.
Yes,
So when
yes,
you, and it's a very difficult thing to do. And I agree with you. You know, this is, we can't understate this by just saying, oh, just desire to be happy, you know, which that is true. That's what you should do. But, you know, you and I aren't necessarily suffering right now. You know
right.
what I mean? Um, and I will venture to say that, you know, we're not suffering, not because we're not suffering. We're not suffering because of the exercises that we
That's the
choose
point.
to go through.
That's the
You
point.
know, you and I have our cousins. We've shared our personal experiences all this year and the challenges that we've been faced with. I know yours, you know mine. So, you know, it's not that we're not suffering because, you know, everything is just working out for us. You know,
Right,
we're not suffering because of deliberate choices that we're deciding every day, even all throughout the day, to make
right,
in terms of how we think about things, in terms of how we decide to feel about our own personal experiences,
right,
and, you know, how we choose to react. You
right.
know,
100%.
yes.
100%, man. I was in preparation for what we were going to talk about today. I was um I was reading a chapter in our book, and this is a chapter that you wrote. This is a chapter that you wrote. It's called "Pay Me in Gratitude," and there was a piece in there I wanted to share real quick that really resonates with what we're talking about. And it said, you know, um, sometimes we lose sight of what's directly in front of us as we chase life's dreams and things. We continue to search for happiness and promotion and material possessions. This is one of the main reasons why our happiness eludes us, why our happiness is fleeting. Happiness does not exist in a thing or possession. Happiness exists within us. And that right there, and you want to talk about gratitude in that same chapter and how gratitude fuels or pushes forward desire overall. You know, having that gratitude and appreciation opens up a whole new world for our desires to be manifested and realized, you know.
Right.
And at the end of the day, here's the other thing, right? So if you throw out everything that we're talking about, if you say, nope, them guys are just full of crap, they don't know what they're talking about, this is nonsense, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'll offer you this. I'll offer you this. What is the alternative? I can walk around here and be affected by the things that are happening in my life. I can be worried about them. I can be angry. I can be frustrated. I can be all of those things. And then I have to ask myself, what are those emotions and negative feelings? What are they going to do for me? How are they going to help my well-being? How is worrying about anything going to help propel me forward? You know, how is being angry and frustrated about it? And some people might say, well, it might cause you to take action. Okay, well, I understand that too. But again, it's not about muscling or hustling or fighting, you know, to the death or whatever to get where it is you're trying to go. It has to start with what you feel from an internal standpoint. Because if I'm worried about my job, if I'm worried about my mortgage payment, that worry, what is it going to do for me? That worrying is not going to help me pay a mortgage payment.
Right. Matter of fact, it's going, worrying is like praying for something you don't want.
Yeah, it is.
In
Exactly.
my opinion, you
It
know.
is. Worrying is
So,
like praying for something that you don't want because, again, you are emitting the vibration to the universe to deliver back to you exactly what you feel.
right.
So if I'm completely worried 100% of the time about whatever, if I'm completely angry 100% of the time about whatever, the universe is going to respond in kind to deliver more things for me to be worried about and more things for me to be angry about. So
Right.
that's important to direct what it is that we choose to feel, because when we direct that, this is how we begin to manifest the things that we want in our lives. This
Right.
is how we do that. Right.
Well, and then to your point also, when you just said a second ago, what are the alternatives? You know, like why would a person even consider doing this? You know,
Right.
to add to that point, for me, what I've learned along my journey is appreciation and gratitude has an immediate effect.
Mm-hmm.
I like things that have immediate effects.
Yes.
And the immediate effect that I get from practicing the practice of appreciation is that I feel great. It has a visceral response to my body.
Mm-hmm.
So when I can focus on something, and it's a reason why it's better to give than to receive.
Right.
Like there's a reason behind these tenets that we've been given for thousands of years. It's better to give than to receive because it makes you, the giver, feel a certain kind of way. And
Right.
in your feeling that, as we've already discussed, now you open yourself up to allowing the desires that you really and truly want.
Right.
So if for no other reason that the byproduct was that you felt better.
Exactly.
Because that can't be understated either. That, a lot of times people say, oh, well, is that it? That I'm just going to, that I'm going to feel better? I'm like, well, that's a lot to me.
That's a whole lot.
It's
a whole lot.
We taking medication. People are going to counselors. People are using substances in an effort to feel better.
Uh-huh.
We're getting in relationships to feel better. We're exercising to feel better. So we understand that one of the biggest parts of this journey is to feel better, right? And so that's one of the byproducts, is that it has an immediate effect. Appreciation has an immediate effect. You can see and feel the results right away.
Yes.
And a sustained appreciation and a sustained gratitude, you will see a compounded results of the things that you are desiring.
Man,
You know,
absolutely. Absolutely. And this is again us directing our lives as opposed to just reacting throughout life, right? And I love that, man. I think for the people that are watching and viewing, you know, we want to give you a couple of things to keep in mind, right? So first of all, when we're talking about, you know, how to create sustained joy, you know, we're talking about starting number one with an intention of this is what I desire. I have an intention to have sustained joy in my life every day. I have an expectation to have joy in my life. I have an affinity towards joy. So I'm searching for it. I'm communing with joy and happiness and love. This is what becomes a part of my regular routine, right? And then secondly, we support that, of course, with the gratitude and the appreciation. Because when we focus on that gratitude and appreciation, it opens everything else up so we can start to manifest our true and authentic desires. Because we are in that space of allowing, because we are vibrating at a certain level where the universe is responding to that appreciation to provide more things for us to be appreciative of. So one of the ways that we want to encourage our listeners and viewers to do this in your life is set that deliberate intention every single day, right? So before you get out of bed or before you strike out to work or whatever that is in the morning, so at some point in time, set that deliberate intention of happiness and joy for your day, right? And then have an expectation. Envision what that happiness and joy is going to look like throughout your day. How are you going to interact with the people at your job? How are you going to interact with your family members? How do you want to interact with people at the grocery store when you go? Envision it before you even leave the house, right? And then develop an affinity towards it. So if you develop an affinity towards joy, then that will be your first thought. It will be start to become your first thought. Joy, happiness, and again, as the more you put it out, the more the universe is going to put it back to you, give it back to you. This is how attraction works, right? And then, of course, we want to follow it up with gratitude and appreciation, because as you already said, that when I'm full of gratitude and appreciation, I am wide open. I am vibrating at such a level where God is responding, the universe is responding to give me more things to be appreciative of. So
right.
when you set that intention in the morning, you know, throughout your day, think about, be cognizant. This takes work, right? This takes some work. It takes some work on your part. You can't, it's not going to happen just out of the clear blue sky a lot of times. So let me write some things down that I am appreciative of today, right? Take three things and things that don't necessarily cost money. That's the biggest thing. And write them down. What are you appreciative of, right? I'm appreciative of my children. I can't buy them. Not legally anyway. I'm appreciative of the sun. I'm appreciative of the beautiful weather. I'm appreciative of, you know, whatever it is, write those things down and then start to focus on those things throughout your day as well, because that keeps you in a constant state of appreciation when you have written it down, when you revisit it, when you think about it, be cognizant of it. That is the work that you do. And then
That's
what
it.
you'll begin to see is your life will begin to unravel and open up, where you create a sustained joy. That is the process. You create a process for writing it down, being cognizant of it, revisiting, reading what you wrote down that you were appreciative of. It becomes a process. This is how you create that sustained joy, focusing on gratitude and appreciation. Am I right, brother?
Absolutely, 1000%. And I'm thankful that we have opportunities and during our waking hours, too many to count, to look for and find beauty in.
Yes.
You know, I challenge everybody to find the good in all things from
Mm-hmm.
the time that you wake up, as you stated, to the time that you retire for the evening. Challenge yourself.
Right.
Challenge yourself to find the positive aspects of every single thing that you come in contact with. Person
Mm-hmm.
on the phone, if you're sitting at a red light, if you are doing an exchange in a store, it doesn't matter. Like, challenge yourself for, even if you did it for 30 days,
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you're gonna see a remarkable difference in your life. And like
Right.
you said, it's not that it's easy, but you know, like anything else, when you practice it over and over again, it becomes easy.
Right.
And that's the sustainability that we're talking about right now. It comes from exercising. It comes from practicing. You know, and again, the beauty of it and what I'm thankful for is that the more I practice it, the momentum takes a life of its own, and it becomes who I am at that point.
Yes. Yes.
To your point that you were saying earlier. So
absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. So yeah.
Are you happy?
I'm very happy. I am very happy. You know, I am very happy.
What you grateful for?
Man, listen, let me tell you something. What I'm grateful for right now, I'm grateful. I went to play golf yesterday, and man, it was close to 100 degrees outside. But man, I had one of the better golf games I've had all year long. You know, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to simply be able to go out there and play. You know, I'm grateful. You know, I was grateful for yesterday too. My kids, man, we because of schools and we in our county anyway, they're going to be doing virtual learning when school starts again, right?
Yeah.
So real quick, so we bought a couple of desks, you know, for my kids to use for school and everything. You know, so they got delivered here yesterday as well, and I was so grateful, bruh, because my oldest, he's 17 now, by the way, which is tripping me out. He said,
"What?
Hey, them boxes were sitting at the front door, right?" He was like, "Hey, Dad, I want to go ahead." I was sitting on the couch just chilling. He's like, "Man," and I was thinking about I got to put these desks together this weekend and all this other kind of stuff. I was thinking in my head. This dude walks up and says, "Hey, I want to put our desk together, you know, for me and my brothers, and I want to, you know, put the chairs together and everything too. Are you okay with that?" Man, my mouth fell open. I was like,
himself?
By himself. That's what he said. Unprompted, nothing. I want to put these together. Is that okay with you?
He did it?
He did it. Man, knocked it out. Knocked it up, man. And I was like, I told them later. And then, so when he started doing it, the other two jumped in and started working on it too. They was working as a team. I sat them down when it was man, it
that's
was
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a testimony to you, brother. That's a testimony. No, sir. That's a testimony to a father.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I appreciate it too.
And you and I, we have great fathers that taught us things, and we're passing that on to our children, man. That's beautiful.
I love it, man.
I'm thankful. I'm thankful myself, man. My daughter's been with me a little over 6 weeks now.
Yeah.
And she's we've had an opportunity. You know, this is the longest she's been with me since she lived with me, you know, in high school.
Right.
And so this has afforded us an opportunity to bond and have some conversations that we wouldn't ordinarily have had, even with us taking trips together and spending time together. We're always limited with time.
Yes.
And so, you know, when you're not bound by time, you know, like I know, that creates, you know, an avenue for sharing and some things that can be talked about, and we can enjoy each other without the being concerned about somebody having to leave, man.
Right.
So I've been oh man, I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for her time with me and our time together, you know?
Yeah. And see, just like that, man, just in those types of little things like that, you know, think about, I just was thinking about how I felt when my little three guys decided to put their desk together and stuff like that. And I was so grateful that they chose to take the initiative and do that. And just like you having the, you know, unadulterated time to spend with your daughter, you know, not bound by time whatsoever, and how you're grateful for. And to your point, you and I talk a lot about the various challenges that we are facing right now. Trust me, and they are very, very real, very, very real challenges. But at the same time, we still are able to create and sustain our joy.
Right. And it makes life worth living to me. It does. You know, when I can, certainly when I can appreciate simple things. Yeah. I'm sharing this with you real quick too. So this is just completely off topic, but not really. So we've been watching this show Alone. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, I heard the title. I haven't watched it before.
Yeah, it's a docuseries where people are in the wilderness It's like start with 10 people, it's $1 million for
Survivor
whoever.
in real life, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's she and I enjoy watching it mainly because of the simplicity and the minimalistic lifestyle that living in nature forces you to, to have to deal with. But,
Right.
To my point of what I'm saying to you, that I'm learning to appreciate the simple things,
Yes.
like the simple things that you just, it's value in being able to sit in a chair, bruh.
Yeah.
Have a surface to work off of. And I'm only bringing these things up because I just watched that episode, and the guy on there had to make that. He was able to make it. And when he made the chair, he was so happy
Yeah.
because he had something to sit on besides the ground.
Yeah.
And I think that all these things now that we've been afforded, these privileges, to your point earlier, that some of them, the pandemic has forced us to realize our privileges, being
Right.
able to just, run to the store and, cook food and throw out what you don't want. And, I ain't gonna eat that. I don't care. I found myself being more resourceful and more thankful and utilizing all of the food that God has blessed me to have in my refrigerator, brother. I don't have to go out and kill and hunt for.
Right.
That's a big deal to me.
Yes.
So
yes.
I just said it makes my life worth living more. It makes me feel like that.
That right there is sustained joy in real life. What you just said, right?
Yeah.
Because and again, to our listeners, as we begin to wrap this up, what is the alternative, right? I mean, why go through the alternative of, hey, no, I'm just angry, I'm upset, I'm depressed, I'm worried, when is this going to stop? When is this going to end? Instead of going through all of that, wouldn't you rather be living a life that is surrounded in love and joy and happiness and tranquility and calm? This is what your spirit desires. This is what your spirit is, okay? Flat out. We tend to let the noise of the outside world disrupt our spirit, and we live from the outside in as opposed to living from the inside out. And from the inside out is creating that sustained joy is where we really want to be. And everybody has the power to be able to do that. And I hope that today we've shared some things with you all to help you be able to create that sustained joy, because it is a process. It does take work, but it's work that is very, very, very fulfilling work. You are going to see yourself be more happy, more joyful, more lovable, more compassionate. You are going to see that. And guess what? When you are that type of a person, then the universe and God is responding to you in kind to deliver more situations and circumstances and people and things that align with exactly the way that you feel. And that is the bottom line today. So on behalf of Edward Muhammad, I want to say thank you all for coming. I'm Gene Black, and we'll talk to you all again next time. Peace.
Peace, peace, and love.